1.5. Supply. Now that we've covered demand, it's time to look at the other side of the market, supply. In economics, supply is a producer's willingness to sell a good or a service. Just like the law of demand, there's a law of supply that explains the relationship between price and quantity supplied. Before we move on, see if you can figure out what that relationship might be. The law of supply. The law of supply tells us that there's a positive relationship between the price of a good and the quantity that producers are willing to sell. Simply put, when the price you can get for a product goes up, you're much happier to try to produce and sell more of it. When the price goes down, you sell less and might even look for something else to produce. We can show this relationship on the supply curve. It's an upward sloping line with price on the y-axis and quantity on the x-axis. We can also show it on a supply schedule, which is a table that shows the same positive relationship. Just like with demand, the next part of the lesson is important. A change in the product's price causes a change in quantity supplied. This is shown as a movement along the existing supply curve. But when there's a non-price factor that changes a producer's ability or willingness to sell, it causes a change in supply, and the entire curve shifts. A rightward shift shows an increase in supply, and a leftward shift shows a decrease. Shifters of supply. So now it's time to learn about these non-price factors that can lead to a shift of the supply curve. Once again, there are 5 non-price factors you need to know. First is the cost of inputs. If the resources needed to make a product become more expensive, supply will go down. For example, if the price of cotton goes up, the suppliers of t-shirts are able to make fewer shirts with their fixed budget, and supply shifts to the left. The second shifter is the number of sellers. If there's a change in the number of producers or sellers in a market, that'll naturally change the amount of the product that's being supplied. If a bad storm destroys some apple farms, the supply of apples will decrease, shifting the curve to the left. Third is sellers' expectations. If word gets around that the price of gold is going to drop in the near future, holders of gold might decide to sell now, while the price is still high. That expectation of a future price change causes a rightward shift in the supply curve today. Our fourth shifter is the price of related goods. Oftentimes, producers can use their resources to make a range of goods, not just one thing. If our apple producers see that the price of pears is soaring, they might decide to plant more pear trees and fewer apple trees. The change in the price of pears causes a leftward shift in the supply of apples. And finally, our last shifter, government action. The government might decide to place a tax or a subsidy on a good, both of which can shift our supply curve. If the government adds a tax, that means producers have less money left over to produce, whereas a subsidy gives them more money to make stuff. If the government decides to implement a fruit tax, we likely see a decrease in the overall supply of apples. So that's it for our lesson on supply. Make sure to complete the comprehension questions, and I'll see you in the next lesson.